Welcome to the Apex Insider Push to Cash recap show. I got Nathan Rogers here. We are going to recap the Thermal GP. I know it's been a week since the race, but we thought that it'd be fun to come back to what we saw, how the bets went, talk a little bit about the pick'ems and fantasy side, maybe, and then maybe we'll tease up the Long Beach race, which is what, in 2 weeks, I guess, at this point. I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah,
So
2 weeks away.
yeah. So what's going on, Nathan? How are you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, just missing some IndyCar. There's too many breaks still at the beginning of the year. They need to fix that, but looking forward to Long Beach here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. No, next year we get the Dallas race. I'm excited about that. So that will help break it up a little bit. But
For
you're
sure.
right. It is a little weird how they start the season, but we are getting towards that May time frame, which is a fun time frame for all of racing, I guess I could argue. But yeah, we're getting to that summer schedule, and that's when things really kick off. But yeah,
Well, yeah,
let's talk about Thermal GP. I know this was number one. This is the first time they did an actual full race, none of the gimmicky like rounds and
yeah,
qualifyings and stuff like that. So this actually meant something and towards the championship points. And yeah, and this is the first year, of course, that we keep repeating and basically echoing the whole hybrid and how is that impacting these cars and teams. So, but yeah, what was your initial like thought about the race? Whether it's teams, track, everything, tires.
yeah. So initially, I was in the same kind of like public sentiment of throw this race out. Don't know if it belongs. The long random like blackout and delay on the Fox broadcast didn't help. That looked pretty bad. But the more I thought about it, like I kind of like this track. I looking at some of the numbers, there were five drivers, like Rasmussen 17 passes, all were for position. Ray Hall 16, Ferrucci 15, Foster 13, and Power 10. Those are your top five. And so just in those five guys alone, they had more passes for position, or just under than what St. Pete had total passes. So like St. Pete had 75 total passes. You add up those guys' pass per position, they're at 71 there. So there was opportunities to pass. I thought Firestone came in with a way better primary alternate tire. The alternate was actually usable, and there was that like nice gap on the primaries where people could feel the speed when they were on those fresh primaries or fresh alternates compared to people on their primary tires. And I think the race just kind of worked. I think even in that exhibition last year in those 10 lap stints, you saw there were a couple corners where people can make moves. We saw Pelot and Lundgaard have that awesome battle for multiple turns where they're side by side going back and forth. And there's not a lot of tracks on the calendar that give room for that. And so the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of watching this stuff back. I'm kind of feeling this track, and I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing it back. Um, I the Pelot on those alternate tires on that last stint, he was one of the few drivers that had his fresh alternates. He was 3.5 seconds quicker than the rest of the field, so just like burning through the field. That was pretty cool. I think what comes down to it that would maybe improve people's perception of this race would just be Fox doing a better job showing those battles, showing any of those 71 passes for position that happened. I think the battle for the lead was exciting. That didn't really happen until the end. And so there's time in the middle of that race where Fox could focus on showing some of those mid-pack battles, and I think that would improve the public perception of this race.
Yeah, I agree. Just to hit on that point, like I was skeptical about them moving to Fox, and I know that like Fox has done some good things to make it presentable, I guess, like the intros and like give you the hype. Like, oh yeah, there's a race going on, and the commercials obviously are awesome. But
Yeah,
now that we've seen two races with this thing, and just annoying how they showed like great, I can see top 5, top 10. What's the speed that what are our times? I mean, people, I guess more seasoned fans want to see that stuff, right? I'm having to load up the live leaderboard through the website, or if I'm not around, I have to do it on my phone just to see that. And that is kind of frustrating. And yeah, to your point, it was great. I'm glad they focused in on Pelot, Pato, and most of the top players, but they did not show us enough of what was happening in the midfield. And sure, okay, maybe people are more interested to see what happens in the front, but give us some snippets. Like, show us what's happening in the midfield. Like, great. Don't show us the bottom feeders. That's fine. I can grasp that. That's great. But yeah, that was kind of frustrating with Fox. And not gonna lie, I kind of miss that. If I want to go back and rewatch, how do I do that with Fox? I can't even do that. Peacock at least allowed me that capability. And yeah, I have some reservations about this move. And then I saw some numbers about the numbers on like viewers. It was pretty low on Fox compared to some of the other races that happened that same weekend, like NASCAR and F1. So, and F1 was in China and they still had the same amount of viewers, which is crazy, at 2 and 3 a.m. And this was just US market too, and they still had the same amount of viewers. That's kind of insane to me. But yeah, I agree with you. But going back to the thermal GP, I'm almost there. I'm still kind of being a hater, I guess you could say, with thermal. Listen, I love the track, just what it is as a track for if you want to go for a weekend, just to put your own car on the track. Looks like a really fun track to take your car to.
Sure.
Obviously the location too, being in, was it Palm Springs or something like that. So great views and everything. So maybe I'll get there next year. This was the first full year, but I do want to talk about quickly Pelot in that race and how impressive you guys saw me in the chat. I was trying to do a reverse jinx in a way, and just I had a little ounce of faith. Let me just say there was a little bit, but I was actually kind of losing faith. I was like, "What is going on?" And it seemed like Pelot just was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. He knew what he needed to do to keep his tires, pure, safe. Don't cause any graining. Don't overdo it. Don't overheat it. Also, maybe it was a lot of it had to do with the saving of fuel too, as well. And that last 10 laps was probably one of the most impressive drives I've seen from Pelot. And we've seen a lot. We've seen quite a bit from him, but nothing shook him the entire weekend too, especially in qualifying, as we saw. What were your thoughts on that with Pelot and what he did throughout the race, or even in qualifying?
Yeah, I was with you in the chat. I was a little bit of like you could say hater, a non-believer in Pelot's ability to get it done on track with cars in front of him. Obviously, multi-time champion, and the way he normally gets it done is just taking care of those tires, managing his fuel, having brilliant strategy with his team, and those pit in, pit out laps. He's a master at. But I was in the same boat when I saw him down come out of the pits. I think for his last stint, he was still down about like 10 seconds and in third place, not even in second place. I was like, he's never done this before. He's never been able to get by a car on track when he's needed to. You think about Mid Ohio last year, that first hybrid race when Pato ended up in front of him, and Pelot was on
We got
time. I'm not saying that's. There's other guys through the grid that I had a little more faith in to do that, but he just shut me up and proved me wrong in that last stint. Um, Incredible battle with Lundgaard. Props to Lundgaard too. That was super clean racing, going back and forth. And then he got right up on Pato after that. Even after he got around Lundgaard, he still had, I want to say, 5 to 8 seconds to make up there. And he did that in a few laps, which, like I said earlier, once he got past Pato, he was pacing the field by over 3.5 seconds, which having those fresh alternate tires did help. But I mean, that just showed he was head and shoulders above everyone else, and which he kind of always has. But if he's going to be able to make those on track passes now, like that's going to make him that's scary for the rest
It's
of the field. I think,
dangerous, very
yeah,
dangerous. Yeah,
he
no,
put them
that's what
on
I'm.
notice, I think.
Yeah, that's where going back to the hybrid era, like he's figured it out. He knows how to manage his car. He knows, like, I mean, and this is again, like, it wasn't an easy task to go and pass someone in using the strengths that he had to make those passes. And to your point, 10 laps. And not only did he pass Pato, he was pacing over everyone. I mean, that's very impressive from him. And you're right. Like, that is, I mean, not going to lie, going into next weekend, how do we look at Pelot? Like, do we just chalk it up? Or I might have some, or not next weekend, but in 2 weeks or so, like, it's pretty interesting. I do want to kind of talk to you about Penske a little bit, because they haven't been on it so far this season. What is it you're seeing from Penske right now? That is it just the tracks, or is there something fundamentally they're just not aligned with their cars, or is it the drivers?
I mean, I think that they're. I don't know what was up with thermal and qualifying. I mean, everyone said it was going to be a little tricky, but uh, the other teams kind of figured it out, and they were completely lost, which you don't normally see from them. I'm not ready to kind of set off an alarm yet on the team. We'll have to see, because St. Pete just kind of went okay. They did have McLaughlin on pole, kind of a bad strategy choice there for him. We never really got to see Power in that race, but he struggled qualifying, so that's 2 for 2 on him, which, coming from the greatest qualifier of all time, is getting a little surprising. So yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it yet. I think it's going to be a wait and see. I would think they'll turn it around. From a betting perspective, I think we desperately need them and others to kind of challenge Pelot. Otherwise, we're going to have to be laying like minus 250 on Pelot every weekend over that. But it gets really fun when there's multiple winners, especially outside of Ganassi and Penske. If we can have Andretti get in the mix, McLaren, even maybe Meyershank pull out a race win, that's going to soften those odds up a lot for us and make it more realistic when we want to take chances on some of these guys that are a little bit longer odds. But yeah, we desperately need the field to compete with Pelot here, else that's going to be kind of a rough betting season.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, let's talk about the bets a little bit. So, I mean, we were on it. I know Integrity, yourself, all of us really were like, how do we not pick Pelot for this weekend? Which, if no one in the Discord or if you were listening, I mean, all of us picked Pelot outright. Like, there was just no question. We were like, don't set and forget. Just put it, forget. Don't even worry about it. And some of you guys actually doubled down, which is probably something I should have done. But even some did live bets on Pelot as well. So hats off to you if you did catch him at like two to one plus throughout the race. I mean, and you doubled down. But I don't think we need to go any further on the Pelot outright. I think we all just saw it there. But let's talk a little bit. So something I forgot about, and it took me a week until Bet Indy was the one that was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Like, oh, that's right, I had this bet. Armstrong Group D. He it seemed like he cleared it pretty easy. But
Yeah,
yeah.
we went back to the well on that. I think there's a
Yeah.
few of us taking an Armstrong Group in St. Pete, and I was high on him again in thermal, and sort of Indy Bet, a few other people. We all rode on that, and yeah, I just think AJ Foyt, they were the other two cars along with VK in that group, and AJ Foyt's been disappointing to me. I don't think Malukas has really even been on TV yet the first two races. Ferrucci's been really quiet. VK's kind of did the typical thing where he qualifies well or shows some pace, and then all of a sudden you're looking through the running order, and he's like 25th, and you have no idea how he ended up down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was an easy win for Armstrong. Hit also with Armstrong over Malukas. I had a matchup on that, so he kind of got some of my money back that I lost from him and his mistake in St. Pete. So we're even now. And then some other matchups I think other people were on. We had Lundgaard over Rossi. I know a few people over that. That was, even though Rossi surprised me this weekend, he qualified well. Lundgaard had a great race and cleared that. And then I know we were both on the Dixon over Rossi, a race day bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the main one I was on that day. So this is the second time I've found something out about Dixon post race that would have given me pause beforehand. So in St. Pete, it was his that he didn't have radio. So I took a live bet on in St. Pete on Dixon, thinking he had it, and then you find out after the race he didn't have radio communication the whole time. So that would have been good to know.
Yeah.
And then kind of after Thermal, he admitted he doesn't really like this track, and he just kind of was circulating and a little frustrated. So it's another thing I've noted, but it would have been good to know before I, laid down a decent amount for him to take Rossi. Which we also found out about Rossi after the race was that they mentioned several drivers having overheating issues on the hybrid. And at one point, IndyCar requested that ECR park one of their cars, which Rossi would just be my guess since that was the reported issue. And ECR basically said, no, I'm going to take this result that we're working on. I'll take the risk on blowing my engine. So we could have got an easy win there if they would have. So we're working on working on the lawsuit on that one to get our money back.
Yeah, that would have made a perfect sweep on my end. Unfortunately, we did not. But yeah, I think it was St. Pete. I didn't lose anything, but I didn't win anything. I was literally at zero.
Same for me, yeah.
Which is, my rule of thumb is as long as I don't lose money, I am happy in this game. So that's always even in F1. But yeah, no, finally got a positive weekend. 1.38 units. I'll take it. I'm totally happy with that. But yeah, it's early season, right? We're still getting a feel of things. Again, there's a lot of different things happening. We haven't even gone a full year with the new hybrid. So as you said, I am treading lightly. I also don't have the same access I did in years previous where I was able to take a lot of these head-to-heads. Otherwise, that Lundgaard one, I would have been all over it. But yeah, that's why you get into this Discord and you can be able to find the lines. We're always line shopping. It's just what we do. It's our bread and butter. And even if it's not one of us, there's always someone within our chat that is bringing up lines. So yeah,
Maxwell, man,
he's on it.
Beast on lines. I'll give him his props.
I get for F1 any F1, Indy, and even sometimes NASCAR, he pops in the chat. Even though we're not too heavy on NASCAR, we still engage in it. Maxwell is I would say our liaison when it comes to I don't know how too. It's very impressive. He knows the minute a book posts lines, he's like, guys, here we go. And I'm like, I love it. So I am so happy he's involved. So
because I love this stuff. So when it's race week, my screen time goes up. I'm on these apps checking for lines.
Yeah.
All day long, and then he's still just oh, they're up. I'm like, well, I just checked 10 minutes ago, so I don't. That's incredible that he found that. So props to him.
Props, totally. And I do want to dive into some GridRival. So I want to again say shout out to GridRival. They are our partners in this game. So really great app. They have everything. We're constantly playing F1 and Indy pick'ems. So really shout out to them. We do have a promo code if you do want to get involved in the pick'em side. Join our Discord. We have a link below that you can sign up. 100% deposit match. Really been loving it. I'll say IndyCar has been a little shaky on my end. Although last week I didn't do anything more than I just tailed you on those few cards because afterwards, again, I just didn't know how confident I would feel in thermal and picking some of these sides. So, and I think it's going to
Yeah.
continue for a little bit until I kind of see how are these teams progressing, drivers. So that's kind of my thing. I'm treading lightly when it comes to the pick'ems on the IndyCar side for sure, but didn't really work out our way. There was some good reads. We had the Lundgaard under 10.5, which was pre obviously race weekend. And the minute that line dropped, shout out to you for calling it out. Like, hey, this is 10.5. We should be taking it. Actually, it even you could have taken it at 9.5. I think it dropped down to 9.5 after we took it.
Yeah.
Joseph Newgarden, that was as easy as it. We just needed that combo. We needed the
Yeah.
Lundgaard and Joseph Newgarden combo. That was it. Unfortunately, Ericsson did not do what we expected him to do, which was unfortunate, which was the under 10.5. I don't remember where he ended up, but I think he was still in the top 15, I believe.
No, I think he kind of reverted back. He had multiple mistakes that day. He kind of reverted back to last year's form where he got like pushed off the track early,
Oh,
and then
that's right.
he spun around a good mid race, so he was buried back there. But yeah, I mean that's going to happen when you have these pick'ems. Unfortunately, I think I kind
Yeah.
of saw the same thing with your F1 plays where it's just you have the right plays, but it's getting the right match. You know,
Yeah.
you can have 10 correct choices but lose all your plays if you just don't have them in the right combos. So I mean that's going to happen. But yeah, we'll keep looking
Keep
for him.
grinding. We'll
Yep.
keep grinding. So yeah, and then fantasy has been a little shaky on my end, and in F1, it's just a product of racing in general. You pick that one driver and you have some incident, and I just want to quickly get to mine and see where
Yeah, I think
did I lose
with
out.
F1, I decided to join you guys this year. I watched the races, but I'm not super locked in on it. And I had an okay week, and then the DQs came out, and it just buried me. And
Yeah, I'm going through
so
that too right now with F1. I feel
yeah,
like every season I go through that to start.
but it's fun. It's been fun to play this. My IndyCar is just going kind of average right now too. So yeah, I mean, I think I kind of have the right people in there. Like I called out Louis Foster on the podcast, and I mean, he actually qualified in the Fast 12, which I mean, you can always. The nice thing about Grid Rivals, you can wait till after qualifying to plug in some of your guys. But so I did get some money on him, but for my overall salary. But I haven't had any monster weeks or lineup combos not yet either.
Yeah, I think my regret is I tried to be cute and say I want to just pair a Penske and an Andretti because their salaries were lower than like a Pillow. I think Pillow was like starting at 30 million. And I was like, let me split these guys up. I expect some good things. Well, one, it didn't help that Herta had his outcome in St. Pete, which his salary dropped after the first race, but he did have an increase in salary this last race. I did have Marcus Armstrong as my starred individual for this last race, so that helped this race, but he didn't help me in the last race. So like it's been
Yeah.
a little rough in that sense. And yes, Joseph Newgarden is not really giving me that expectation that I was hoping, but maybe we can tease this up for the what we expect for Long Beach. I know Long Beach we're back to a street circuit. I do like Long Beach, just the vibes of it, I guess you could say. And
Yeah.
the track itself should be very interesting, especially with the hybrid era. Like what do we expect? Here we go again. Like we're talking about how these cars will impact certain teams and drivers as we're getting through this weekend. I know Penske was strong here last year. I know that they tried to split strategies between Power and Newgarden.
Yep.
I'm kind of eyeing it again. I am going back to your point. I'm a little hesitant on them, but yeah, I'm maybe this is the opportunity where Penske actually shows up.
Yeah, and I'm hoping the books overreact to their poor performance, and I mean, if they give us some soft lines on Pincy, I will jump on those in a heartbeat. So I we will just kind of have to wait and see with them, but depending on the lines, I'm not against Penske drivers. Of course, Andretti's strong on street courses, I feel like Hurd has been a little quiet here. Of course, he's had his multiple times where he probably should have won this race, and he's blown it on his own accord. Kirkwood did win a couple years ago. I comparing it to St. Pete, I do feel like there's the passing zones, the two that I can think of. The first one's turn one at the end of that long straight.
Yep.
It's a little bit better of a passing zone than turn one at St. Pete. And then there's another one kind of in the middle of the lap. It's another good opportunity to pass. So I think we'll see a little bit more passing than St. Pete. There's drops another line. I'd probably still lean the under if they're trending off history and stuff, current ways of how things are getting done. So yeah, I don't have my kind of favorite picked out yet for Long Beach, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Polo win it again.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, he was always strong here. I mean, even last year, he was trying to chase down at towards the end, and seeing what we've seen the past two races, it makes you think like, well, do we just chalk this again? Let's see the odds, of course. We'll have another race preview as we get closer, but I'm just trying to think ahead of like, what are some of the teams to target? Like, I know Meyer Shank, Felix, he qualified well. I don't remember.
He was on pole last year, I think.
Was he? Yeah, that's right. He was on pole. But then, again, going back to Meyer Shank, they always had that issue last year. They qualify well. So it seemed like they had good qualifying trim, but then in the race, they just would just fall back. That hasn't happened this year. It seems like they've been a little bit stronger there. So I am going to be eyeing some Felix and seeing where we can attack on that, whether it's GridRival pick'ems or can we find an opportunity in the – let's see what their top three, let's see what their top five markets are. It would be nice if the books would do some qualifying plays, because that would be a great one to just try to attack if there was qualifying odds. Again, going back to your comment about Andretti, it's kind of who's going to be the guy that steps up on the Andretti and gets ahead. I will be eyeing Ericsson again, even though I have a love-hate with him just about any race weekend. Like, he can stick it in there. He could be well. I do remember last year he had an opportunity to try to overpass. I think it was Herta. I can't remember exactly who. And he just had this timid moves. Like, he just got out of the pits and or Herta got out of the pits. He was already one lap on his new tires, warmed up, and he still couldn't get the pass. And that's one thing that still worries me about him. But just let's see what the odds are, because I will be eyeing him. If the odds are not in our favor, again, pick'ems, I'm sure we can maybe find an opportunity there. So it should be interesting. So I'm excited. A couple weeks, but yeah. We'll see. We'll have our race preview for that in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more succinct line talking and more data points for y'all. But I don't know. I'm kind of eyeing Penske as well. I'm hoping the books do overreact, like you said, and maybe Penske finds something. And then, do we catch the falling knife? We'll see. So, well, man, this was great. I really appreciate you getting on. This is fun. I like to debrief on these things, and I look forward to Long Beach. A couple weeks, man.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm ready for it. So look out for race previews. We'll have pre-qualifying picks and talking IndyCar all the time in the Discord. So let's jump in and get with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Right on.